Welcome to today's episode of CLCI Live, brought to you by the award-winning and ICF accredited school, Certified Life Coach Institute. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode.
Today, we are going to talk about how to use I without making it about you. But
but I want to make it about me. I'm not happy at this moment.
Lisa's been teaching a class all day, so she's. Thank you for being here. I'm going to turn it over to my team compadres, my fellow coachy type folk. Have fun, guys.
So, how in the world am I supposed to use I without making it about me during a coaching session? Isn't that self-encompassing, using the word I?
So the idea when you're using I, many times it's attached. Well, actually, it's attached to attachment when we coaches are not experienced in the learning portion of this. The I is supposed to come from my understanding. I'm trying to gather what you're sharing with me, and I want to make sure I'm hearing. So the language is more of acknowledgement, I, versus I think you should be doing X, Y, and Z that allows you to break out of that. So you notice I'm prescribing versus acknowledging and reflecting back what my filter is going through. I'm human. I'm going to have a filter, but I still try to stick with, as I'm saying, with what the client is saying and their terminology.
I'm going to take the stance of somebody who might not know anything about coaching.
Yes, you usually do.
If I just called myself a coach, I had no certification, isn't the idea that the client's coming to me and they want to know what I think and they want my advice?
That is a possibility, perhaps. It is not what we do.
That's a gentle way of saying hell no.
That is a gentle way of saying, heck, no way, no way, no way, Jose.
So it's not about me, the coach, and my knowledge, and they should. The client should just be quiet and listen to me. It's not about that.
No.
Yeah. So with that pretense, I mean, how can we use I? I mean, wouldn't that just be a space you want to just move away from? Don't ever use I. It seems counterintuitive, right?
No, it's posible. You have to. I mean, I will come up. I mean, there is a lot of you. I think that this encompasses more than just I. Like, we got to be careful with we's. And we got to be careful with me's, and so it's since we're making it about the client. But do we want to give one way you can use I? We kind of have a list of do's and don'ts for this. So you can use I for clarification,
which is what I just.
Yeah. Just that.
What if I was a coach who spoke in the third person? And I said, this coach would like to know.
Laura says, I keep catching myself saying, I'm curious.
Well, that's okay, though. I think that's fine because it's not taking a stance.
Mm-hmm. I think that works.
Yeah, it's similar to like a tell me more kind of situation.
I'm wondering.
Yeah. Or you keep catching yourself doing it, and it's fine.
I was a bad client once. I was a client in the sense of I was in one of my learning experiences, and I had somebody come up to me and say, I wonder, but it wasn't I wonder, curious, empty, be quiet space. I wonder if this would work for you. So it became a prescription, if you will, based on what I shared with them. They took it and related to it and applied what they knew to work there. So when Laura says, I catch myself saying, I'm curious, as long as you're curious and leave it in an open-ended question, I'm curious when you've shared that information with me, what more does it mean, perhaps?
Yeah, well, and I love that I'm curious, honestly, because that's what we're supposed to be as coaches. That's what we teach, is be curious about your clients and what they're doing. So the I'm curious really works for me, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But there's also bad ways to lead with I'm curious as well. Like I could say, I'm curious why you suck. I'm curious why. I'm
curious why you would make that decision.
I'm curious why you chose to do this.
At that point, you change the word curious into a judgment. Like it is now an adjective more than it is a verb.
It becomes a sign of passive aggression.
Yes.
So that's definitely not what we're doing as coaching. We're keeping it open, we're keeping it curious, and we're keeping the dialogue from coming from the client.
One of the ones that I have trouble with, a couple ways I've caught myself is I use we's. So in a work environment, I'm very trained to be weeing. This is a we thing. This is a we team. This is a we situation. In a coaching situation, it is not a we situation. It's not like, how are we going to do this? It's how are you going to do this?
The mouse in your pocket. How are you going to do this?
Yes.
Be a we, though, in the sense that it is a partnership between coach and client to.
How would you use that, though, and not make it, because you're kind of
the bad part about a we is that you're getting other people to co-sign your BS without their permission a lot of the times when you say that we.
Well, but the reason you do it in business is because you're acknowledging that there's a team and there's more than just you that make things happen.
I use that I way too much in a business.
I know. I've noticed that.
Don't you mean we've noticed that, Brooke?
Yeah, I know. I only point it out to you every single time.
Yeah, I know. I know it every single time. But
so there's a place for it. There's a place to utilize it. And there's places not to utilize it. In a team building experience, we definitely is a good place to come from. Even in coaching, there's a conversational intelligence, the We Institute. That's what she calls, or she's passed, so sorry. But that's what Judith Glasser called it, as she was a team builder in that space. So we works in business indeed. Partnering with an individual client, there's a good reason not to say we, because we're not doing the work.
Yeah. So is there a time that we is okay for us to say we in a coaching space? I really have trouble coming up with one in a one-on-one coaching space.
I can't think of one where at the moment. I'm sure, because there's all those little gray areas. There's not that cookie cutter experience. There's probably somewhere, but I'm not thinking of it at the moment.
And this is very specific to one-on-one coaching. We're not speaking to team coaching when we're speaking of this, because in team coaching, I think there is a space, but it still is a very you-centric, but the we comes into play and is important. Now, if we're talking outside of coaching, I is important, though. Using I statements is important when you're in any kind of situation that is disagreeable. So there is a time and a place for I, but we're just in this instance coaching space. We just want to use it really for clarification. Where else can we use I while coaching?
Well, I think a really great space to use it, tying into our last week's live stream, is in validation. Using it to reflect with your client, letting them know, this is what I'm hearing from you.
Yes.
This is what I get. Just to clarify, and also to validate with your client if that is what they're clarifying.
Yeah. It's the go ahead. Yes. Lisa.
So there's a way we don't use this portion of it as much when we are in the challenging I. So if the client is in that space where they want to be challenged with what they're sharing, I might say, okay, if I'm going to challenge you, here's a challenge question. So it's going to come from my perspective. I got a lot of stuttering going on. I'm tired.
Will you explain what you mean by challenge question? Because I just want an example. I'm putting you on the spot after teaching a whole day of class. I'm sorry.
So the challenge is going to be where we're not just being nice and agreeing. We're not being in a place where the client, we're thinking outside the box. It really is what we're doing. We're thinking outside the box in the experiment of what they're sharing with us. So in the experiment of what they're sharing, the challenge could be to challenge that thought process to really own the space that they're working towards. The challenge could be, and I can't think of an example at the moment, but the challenge could be, but what if this XYZ doesn't happen, or we can throw in that courtesan question skills that help that brainstorm experience that challenges things as well. The ability to think differently, to be proactive versus reactive with things that could happen.
Can we now? I'm just throwing devil's advocating here. Can we ever disagree with our clients?
We're not agreeing or disagreeing. That's where the challenge comes in, is that we get to ask questions. We get to help them imagine different experiences.
So there'd never be an instance in which you were like, I disagree with you there. You got that wrong.
No, but I might say, I know somebody was talking, but I might say, who you've shared with me over these last few sessions. You've brought this to me. What you're saying right now doesn't sound like something you would have normally said. What's going on there? So I might challenge in that way, not that I disagree with them, but that they are speaking in a way that's not what they have already done. Not already done, but how we've connected and what they've said. So they might be trying to do the right answer versus their truth. And that's what I'm usually challenging, the right answer versus their authentic truth.
Now, there is an instance in which we can use we can use it to point out observations, right? I've noticed that in previous sessions you have said this, or I noticed. Now, is that a necessity to even use the I? Maybe not, but I noticed your body shift change. I noticed your tone of voice changed. Tell me more about that. Those are to make an observation, but it's an observation without a judgment. I think that's important to say.
Yeah, because I'm not saying that you're angry. You look angry in that switched position. I'm noticing. I love this TV show that used to be on Lie to Me. Did you guys?
Oh, yeah.
I love that show. We don't have to be the expert body reader by no means. We are noticing just shifts that a client goes through and acknowledging those shifts. So being that mirror with our voice.
And we're not saying that by noticing something that somebody's lying either. That's not exactly what we're saying. It's that we've noticed a shift or a change or something that is different. Yeah. And so through that, we just make the observation. We notice that this has changed. We're not making a judgment as to say whether it's because they're lying or they're avoiding or anything like that. We're not assuming we know anything.
That was just to show that they were heavy into body language and what it meant.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, and that's a playground that we can play in. That's a fun play. I mean, without a doubt. What happens if you get it wrong? No,
I'm fine. I'm not mad. Well, you just look like you were mad at the world. I'm just thinking about things.
Well, and that's why it's always important to have that check-in. Assuming is bad. We know what it does.
Very important not to label. Very important not to tell someone what they're feeling. Just check in. What's going on?
Keep it simple.
Kiss.
Keep it simple, sweetheart.
Don't kiss them. Don't read their body language and think you should just give them a smooch.
No.
What are other ways we can think of in which I might be inappropriate? I mean, we've touched on I have, the advising. Is there any other ways where it's just like red flag? No. Danger, Will Robinson.
I mean, I think anything that's attached to judgment, anything that's attached to a prescription of how they should be living and doing whatever it is that they're bringing up.
I just threw out there the comparison. Me too. I know what that's like. I know. I've done that before.
On the fuzzy edge of affirming and praising what we talked about last week. It's not exactly that, but it's too close to injecting your own personal experience and mixing it with the client's experience and then assuming that there is a similarity when there might not be.
Well, I bet that's just awful. Something along the lines of that. I bet I bet you really feel great in that moment. Those are spaces you probably don't want to be using I.
Well, what that does is it makes it about me, right? Immediately, it's like, oh, I know I've been through this before. I got, like, and that's now we're not talking about the client anymore. We're not curious. We already now are assuming we know everything because we've been through that experience before.
Oh, here's another one. I understand.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness. I understand. I completely understand. That throws people off the edge like no tomorrow, because just saying those words make them feel like you do not understand.
How could you?
But that's not what we're trying to say when we're in that position where we're going, we're trying to communicate that we're clear with what they're expressing. So that's where that reflection comes in handy. Don't get caught up on using those filler words. I understand. I'm hearing you say this. Yeah, keep going.
Mm-hmm. I know that for me, like in coaching, it's been the we is a problem. The we is a problem, and the I'm proud of you. That affirmation that I just any number. I mean, it's usually in a positive space. It's in a positive space. It's not in a space of like judgment. It's in a positive space for sure. But although I do judge on occasion. Actually, I think that it's not fair that judging is important. We should do it. I mean,
absolutely.
It's part of our day to day. It's
I mean, you as a coach, you
judgment.
keep it to yourself.
God, we should be bumbling.
Well, aren't we, in a sense, trying to help the client judge and figure out the direction they want to go? If they no longer want to do X and it's Z that they want, so the judgment is, I don't want to do X, I want to do Z. So we're helping them to move forward through their experience of what Z means to them.
On what Z means. I feel like she was going to go into some accent there all of a sudden. So do we want to? We could do a coaching demonstration.
Jerome can be the coach this time.
Yeah.
Oh, come on! Don't you like to be victimized?
I don't want to be in the hot seat anymore.
Anthony's done. He's quitting. He's not going to coach anymore.
What you can see is my feet were pounding the ground as I said that. It's like, come on.
Because we do need to start with an I too, and we also start with a U. Before we do that, though, when can we not use you?
Don't put people's words in their mouth, repeat what you've heard them say to confirm what you heard was correct, but don't say, yeah, like you're this, or don't make a judgment.
You should this.
You are this.
You just described yourself being codependent.
Oh, no, you didn't.
What?
Even if it's nice things. Don't say you are a divine, beautiful being. You are a strong,
okay, well, maybe we'll make that one
smart
better.
No,
professional.
you can say those things in your marketing.
In your marketing, yeah.
Your marketing, you can say those things. You cannot say those things in your coaching session.
Then afterwards, it's just assumed that that's the case. You don't have to say it.
We got you in the door because you are amazing. We've already established it.
We lost you, Brooke. Can't hear you.
Quiet.
Your lips are
Your
going.
mic may have muted. Yeah.
Your lips are going, but we can't hear you.
No, we're missing like the most important thing right now.
I know it. She's
Every
saying
coach to know, and we just
incredible.
It should be working. Why isn't it working?
There it is.
Okay, it's on. Okay. I was like, what's going on? What did I do? Okay.
What if the client directly asks the coach, "What do you think?"
That's fine.
So
I think what
Do you think that's
I think what you think. I have no brain.
okay.
So we always, again, mirror it back, and if they're very persistent, yes, I've got definitely opinions, but my opinions are for my day in a life. My opinions are for my experience. Let's discover, this is where we could go to be. Let's discover together what yours are. Let's discover what,
Could I say something like if somebody was pressing me in that way, maybe with a little explanation, give them a little, preface it with well, I may have experience or opinions, but I do not know your situation. I'm not in your situation. You are far better the expert in your situation.
That's
So
a great word to use. You are the expert of your life, and let's go down that way, because I can never tell you what
But
I'm not.
now you're telling me what I'm supposed to think. I don't think I'm the expert. Where did you get that idea from?
because you
You're
only
just
know
being
your life.
challenging. You're doing that on purpose.
I will do this back to him the whole time. Let's do it. Come on. I got a response.
That's fine. I'm just I'm an ornery, I'm a mean client who is just
Okay.
wants to fight on every point. Why do you think that I'm the expert? How dare you use a phrase like that?
You are the expert because you are the only one in your shoes. And I have never been in your shoes. I have not lived your life. And so let's what is it? Tell me more about you feeling like you not being the expert. Why don't you think you are the expert of your life?
Oh, not the why, not the challenge.
Not the why. Darn it. Then tell me more.
Got him.
There you go. Keep it simple.
Come on, Anthony. Tell me more about why you think you're the expert of your life.
Assuming that I'm wearing shoes right now, I'm not. I'm barefoot. Two, I never said that I was the expert. I feel as if I'm not the expert of my life, and that's why I'm here to be coached, so that I can become the expert of my life and myself.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you want to become the expert of your own life, and that's is that what you'd like to work on today in today's session?
Yes. And I feel that working with other experts in their own fields or lives will help me become an expert.
Wonderful. Okay, so
I can't, but then I'm in a, oh, go on.
No, I'm not interrupting you. Carry on.
I'm in a bind though, because if what you say or what you thought was true, that I'm the expert of my life, I know what's best. I don't think that's true, so I don't know what's best. How do I know what's best?
And actually, this is probably a true direction, because there's many clients that'll say, I've got a track history
Yeah.
that says
No, and then
I've got a resume of bad decisions.
my question would be, well, tell me about you not knowing best.
Well, there was a time today I got ice cream and I wanted chocolate ice cream, and after I had it, I wanted vanilla instead, and chocolate was a bad decision. I didn't like it.
This is no client is coming to me with this problem. We have to question the problem.
That's a hypothetical example without.
Give me a real life issue. I'm not coaching fake things.
That's me as a client who's not wanting to open up yet. That's a hypothetical to sort of show deeper issues I don't want to get into at the moment. But I'll do one thing, and it'll either be the wrong decision or feel like the wrong decision afterwards.
So this is, you make a decision. What I'm hearing you say is that you make a decision, and then once you've made it, you then afterwards feel as though you had made the wrong decision.
Or I don't feel that way. It just is the wrong decision, regardless how I feel about it. From other people telling me, or from retrospective, oh, I should have done this instead to have a better result.
Tell me more about what makes something wrong.
I guess there's, without getting too complicated, there's two different types of wrong. There's like a ethical type of wrong where I make an ethical choice and it's bad and people are mad at me and I should have done something else. And there's objective choices where I could have made $10,000, but I chose to do something instead, and I lost $10,000 because of it, as an example.
So when we're talking about being the expert of your own life, are you speaking to this kind of decision that is about that ethical decision, or are you speaking to that $10,000 sort of
both
areas?
I
Okay.
objectively make wrong decisions, and I subjectively make wrong decisions.
Okay. Well, this is what you want to work on today.
Yes.
Is there one area you would like to start with, the objective or the subjective?
I think objective would be easier.
Okay, we will.
So if it's easier, but is that where you want to begin?
Yeah. Okay, 'cause easier doesn't always, right? That to me is a little bit of a red flag. We can say.
What do you think? What do you think I should do?
Wait, where did this come from?
Oh, I'm just being the still the difficult client.
Yeah.
What do you think I should do?
I think we should do whatever you feel like doing.
But here's the problem, though. If I choose one thing, it's the wrong thing. So I should choose the opposite thing, but that's the wrong thing, and I'm stuck in this bind
Well,
that I'm always in.
Tell me more about what makes it wrong.
That I always regret the decision afterwards. I can't be happy with decisions, and they don't ever seem to go right, for one, but if they did, I still can't seem to accept it and move on.
Okay.
So they don't ever seem to go right?
Yeah.
Not ever go right, but there's always seems to be a better decision, and I have received criticism for my decisions before.
When I'm hearing you speak, can I now? This is me question marking. Could I say this? Because I'm making an observation for clarification. When I've noticed it's 3 times in this interaction that he has said, and this is me not coaching hat off. I'm genuinely asking right now. He has said, well, based on what other people say, based on criticism of others, because other people get mad at me. Is there a way, or would there be a space? I was going to say, could I make that observation?
Mm-hmm.
I could say what I've heard.
It depends on how you say it, but yes, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say something as you've been sharing, what I've heard you say is that you make wrong decisions, and one of the way you gauge that a decision is wrong is because you are criticized by others, or they get upset with you, or they tell you that you should have done something differently.
That's one of the major ways, yeah. Sometimes I don't let people know what my decisions are, so I'm not criticized, and I still feel that they're wrong, but most of the time in my work life or my social life or family life, everybody's telling me I'm doing the wrong thing. And how can you help me with that?
What's important about that statement you just said?
I would just sit in silence. I was going to make him squirm a little. What was the question, Lisa?
What was important about the statement you just made?
What was important about that statement you just said?
That's an interesting question, by the way. That what is important question. I like that one. I'm stealing that one.
Thief.
What was important about that statement I just made is that I care a lot about what other people think of me. But I don't know if that's the only thing, though. Because I believe, as myself, the fake client, that there are right and wrong decisions out there in the world. Do you do the right things to get the things you want, or do good things, or have more things in your life, and you do wrong things that are either morally bad or take away from your life or from the happiness of other people. And it seems, up until this point, I've always done wrong decisions.
Always?
Not always, but because you can't say always and forever. It's just, if you had to weigh them, it's on the bad side most of the time.
So tell me about the not most of the time. Tell me about the times when you that other side of the spectrum.
They seem trivial. They seem not worthwhile. Like, it was probably the right decision to go to work today, but it's probably not the right decision for me to choose my profession that I did 10 years ago. So I'm just managing the bad decisions that I made. And those are right decisions to manage it, but it seems like Band-Aids, or I'm just sort of getting by in life, you know? So the right decision is to not make more wrong decisions. That's what I got going on for me.
You know what I want more? Coach hat off. More like what I want more. This most pessimistic client in the history of pessimistic clients. But
I'm being especially difficult, and for the viewers, I'm not.
You're not
this
this.
difficult
You're
in
not
real
this
life.
person. You are not this.
But this is not too far off from some clients.
No, I thought that are like really negative. I wonder, and I found myself sitting here wondering if I would ever get to this point with this client, or if I would have just like nixed them out before we even started and been like, "You need therapy."
Well, they're not going to be on a live experience, so we would definitely go down a path. They would discover, what is important to them. Sometimes critical is. We haven't defined what critical is, though.
My question is, though, we're in this space, and we've deviated from our topic altogether, but
we have.
Here we are. So that that concept, he kept saying, he keeps returning to right and wrong and right and wrong and right and wrong.
That's so black and white thinking.
What method of questioning do we go down to get him to use other vocabulary, to stop defining in such black and white terms? And that's really what I was, like.
He may not want to do that.
It may not be exactly. That's me putting my thumbprint on him. So, he's playing a fake character right now. So he's just
what's a sneaky way that a coach can do that?
What he can do is he can just usurp anybody who would put in their logical brain and go, okay, maybe I am, and just stay black and white because he's playing a fake character at the moment.
And this is a really good plug for when we're doing class, to really come in with material, because we get into peer-to-peer coaching, to come in for real experience and bring material in to work on, because you can go down the negative Nelly path from now to doomsday when you're in that acting position. You can.
I want to coach. I want 3 coaches.
I also think with this character, I think we accidentally, as the coach, put ourselves down a.
I never would have hired you. You never would have gotten past the pre-screen process. I would
let's assume I tricked you, but I think we didn't quite establish as clear of goals as we could have in the beginning.
We didn't even start the system properly. We just sort of dove right in. Yeah.
What I.
But that's a great point, though. It points out that when you don't have a clear goal for your session, you can be stuck in this mud of like just nothing, like we're going in circles. Why?
Because as a client, I'm speaking in kind of vague terms, and I'm not being like so clear. As a coach, you might want to like really hammer down, like, what is at the end of the session? What does this look like? What can we work on? And this is where you could probably use a we. What could we work on?
I say we, though. I got in trouble for saying we in that state. Like,
can you say what could we work on, Lisa?
So
I have to go back and reflect on where I acknowledged that we place, but what is the work in this place that's going to assist you in the direction of having, we were talking about clear language, we're talking about who you feel critical with, how it's pointing out there to others, how do we take what you're saying, this is where I would use a we, what you're saying, and hone in on where you want to go with today's session.
So how do we take what you're saying and hone it? So that's a we can use.
Because we are partnering, so that's where the we could work.
It can only work in this if you're speaking in the space of the actual session. But there's no we that happens once the session is over, so you do not use a we at any term in which that would.
What are we doing? What's the work we are doing? We're not doing we work. We're doing you work.
It's a present tense we situation, a forward tense you situation, and a no I. Just
no third person reflexive either.
Yes, we can't use one. What would one do?
Actually,
if a hypothetical, like one would in this situation, that's a good but also weird question as a coach, because maybe you would be tempted to say one would in this scenario say this instead or do this instead. What would you do in this situation?
Well, but is that then feeding them? Are we feeding them?
Is that cheating?
So a lot of the times we are not going to use that. What would one do? A client would. They could say, well, and they're experimenting of throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. One could, one would, da 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 da. I'm not going to halt that, because if we're in that spaghetti throwing to see what sticks, let's just keep going down there. But where you went to, and what is the one thing that perhaps resonates for you? What is the thing you would do?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's where that question could fit in.
Now,
But-
if we have a client that's in a space of making all their decisions based on other people's influence, that's okay, right? We don't correct them, do we? Well, Joe said I should do this, and Bob also said I should as well. Mary disagrees. What do you think I should do?
Mike thinks I should stop cheating on her. What do you think I should do? As I'm saying this to my relationship coach.
Well, what do you want to do?
Again, making it a real situation is going to be a better anchor for us to hook into what that direction works best. But even if we're just playing with these kinds of words, it's what's important to you. As they're saying these things, what becomes important to you in that experience, right? So bringing it back to the individual client that we're working with, helping it stay away from the ET factor, the out there in the ether. We have no control.
Is that extraterrestrial? Is when you
Yeah.
take the factor? Is that so? Everything outside of the coaching session is alien.
Yes.
Okay, I understand now.
What is back to the client? What is back to the client, and what are they able to focus on, and what's important to them, and how they want, right? It brings it all back to them. So we're going to coach that, bring back to that individual.
But what if I want to work with aliens on my project?
You'd have a very small niche.
Are you crazy? Maybe I should refer you to a psychiatrist where we can continue to work together. Okay, so that's an I situation, right?
I think I got lost in the.
I think that's an I situation. I feel like this is outside of the scope of my work.
Yeah.
Not I think you need. It's
you need help.
This is outside of the scope of my work.
This
sounds like something a therapist or a counselor.
About you, this part, that is all I and me statements right there, not a you. Like that's when you're doing that, it's like this is outside of what I am comfortable doing or I am capable of doing. This is beyond the spectrum of my training. I have a great suggestion, and you never go, you're crazy. I can't do this.
Well, I mean, those statements are kind of bordering, being in session and out of session, or being in session and closing the session. Those, if it gets to that point, then we're essentially almost not even really in session anymore. It's stepping away.
You're saying we're tapping out of the session. Session pause. And I mean, do you actually just again veering? If you're in that situation where the topic became something where it's like I can't. This is making me uncomfortable. I can't do this. Do you acknowledge that tap out moment? Okay, I'm going to just stop you here, and I just want to share that I'm not capable of helping you any further, or without the assistance of another professional. Essentially, feel free to come back another time once you've gotten on drugs of some kind. And no, I'm just kidding. But I mean, not all. In many cases, that isn't the situation. It's just not what we treat, not what we.
No, so tapping in and going, what you're sharing, I really appreciate that you're sharing. Like I've had people share things that they've never shared with anyone before, or I was the third person they'd ever told something horrific to. It's acknowledging, thank you for your candor and your sharing of that information. That particular place is beyond my scope of practice. I've got a really great person who works really well in that, whatever that is. And I would love to give that information to you, so you're going to go get the best help in this place possible.
But now I always bring this up because as somebody who has experienced trauma, it doesn't mean that I can never be coached for the rest of time. So just I always,
on that topic.
because it's about knowing whether it's still they're in a forward future, ready to move, and it's not something that they're living in on a daily basis kind of thing. And even still, you can work with somebody who has trauma that has a therapist and is moving, taking baby steps. You absolutely can help them coach forward.
Or sometimes it is more important that they go get some of that therapy under their belt and then come back to coaching.
Yes.
So there's no wrong answer. It's just being aware of what serves that client in that moment best.
Yeah, and then again, I statements for that, and then you acknowledging them with the I appreciate what you shared. Any other ways we can think of not to use the I's and the we's or the me's and the you's and the they's, them's,
or other pronouns or
pronoun here as a
I mean, the idea of the pronouns.
now that brings up a topic, right? Like we can bring up the gender, right? Even assuming that somebody is a she, a her, a him. I mean, that is something that nowadays
They, them. Mm-hmm.
they, them, knowing the non-binary and avoiding pronouns, or do we embrace the pronouns? I've asked this question many times. I've embraced sharing my pronouns with folks.
This might be something before, like when you're thinking of your marketing, you consider whether I coach men who want to get better at fishing, or I coach women who are single mothers. I'm being very, extra with the gender stereotypes, but you could also just say I coach people, and in your contract ask
I would probably
what's your preferred pronouns.
just not doing that. Like I would, as a kind of consultant hat coming out, I would say, well, pick a person. And I'm not saying pick a she, a her, a they, a them. I'm saying pick a person, whoever that may be, and we define who that is around that person. So it could vary, and that could actually be a very. I mean, there's entire niches of coaching around embracing those kind of things, transition and everything. So yeah.
So I would, when someone brings the different word choices, how they want to be identified, it's not something that every day I participate with. So I'm going to write it down to be sure that I remember how they want to be identified in that space. Usually I'm referring to my client with their name. I'm not referring to them. What is that? Is it pronoun? Pronoun?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not
My name
referring
is
to
I.
them as a pronoun. Usually that first name, depending on who the client is, but usually that first name and how they are identified. Yeah.
There are situations in which we would be like, where I could say, well, what did she say? What did he say? Or what, those kind of, that could come up in one way or another. But
play it safe and
I think that most people who are coaching in those terms are I mean, I would imagine there'd be conversations that somebody.
Yeah, and how do we refer to you? Like if it's a couple, how do you want your partner to be referred to when we're having this conversation?
Yeah, some people also don't like wife and husband. Some people like partners. Some people like spouse, significant other. I mean, there's all different ways that people define and label themselves. So just being respectful and speaking your client's language. Right.
So, and that's always what we're going back to, even with those eyes. And I always think of the pig, what do you play with the piggy toes? Wee all the way home. When we're using those words, it's what works for the client that we're staying.
I'm lost. Wait, where do the toes come in?
All the way home. The little market facing home. So, I'm tired. I've been up since 2. Give me a break. I'm so sorry.
I love it. So recap. Let's just do a little recap. What I heard everybody say here was, we should use I. We should use I with our clients, but we want to just be very, very particular and be aware of when we are using our eyes. And that's really a big part of coaching, is that mindfulness and awareness and being aware of how you use words as simple as I, or you, or we, or they, or us, or me, all those kind of things that just flow out of our vocabulary on a day-to-day basis very easily. You have to have sort of some level of awareness in your coaching session and be very particular as to when you choose to use those words.
That awareness, that's where a lot of coaches, the coaching process, when you're just following the skill set, has a natural, normal flow. It becomes around who we are as individuals out there, and practicing that awareness of that interaction with our clients. That many times is where that challenge lies as a coach.
Well, the scary thing about the awareness piece is that I think that the coach, they get in the space of like, there's like a fine line of being like hyper aware, where you're like, you're like, oh my God. And then just being comfortable and with what you're doing, but that just comes with practice, right? That just comes with practicing a skill set, the confidence gains, and then the next thing you know, boom, you're good.
One of the ways that in the history of me going through this process in the beginning, like many of you are going through, is I would create notes for myself when I recognized that I did something that took it out of flow for a moment. I'm going to jot that down and recognize what that means. I built questions. There was this book that I read that for me resonated in the question mode, because it was questioning the connection to something. Enabled me to build so many amazing questions from that. So you take one step at a time, you go through the process. There's people that will go, well, I don't want to hurt my client. If you're in the framework of what it means to be the certified coach, you're going to follow in where that client is leading, and you're not doing the leading. That client's going to design their world and their experience, not you.
Did I hear you say that I don't want to hurt my client?
Yeah, so there's the new students that come through the class. They feel an enormous responsibility to their client, which is amazing because they care. The piece that they're missing, it's not about them. They're still making it about them when they're thinking that they could be harmful, because they're not giving that advice. They're not putting their information in there. And when they do recognize that it is about beyond my scope of practice, they're going to refer out. Always that refer out when in doubt. But that experience of being concerned of how we're working with our clients. I'm not saying don't be concerned. Absolutely be concerned.
Don't care about them. They're fine.
Follow the go learn.
Office.
Follow the go learn. Make the client the center of everything and that information, and it's going to be about them and what they want.
And another thing as well with that, coaching in sort of the ICF realm of coaching, we have the assumption that clients do have personal responsibility and the power to work their own change, whether it's good or bad. And so we're not responsible for the harms that come, that may come of it in a liability. Let me continue in a certain sense. If we assume or think that a client doesn't have enough personal responsibility to coach, they're probably not the client for you. They have either an issue that should be better resolved with a therapist, or they're not
some sort of professional. Yeah.
Some sort of professional. The assumption is
a licensed professional is what I mean.
Give me an example of when a situation in which we would feel like our client isn't capable of assuming liability for their own decisions.
This would be if they had a mental condition that.
So I mean, it's very clear. Yeah. Okay.
The assumption is that we work with people who do have full responsibility of their situation, and we empower them to work through that. And
devil's advocate here, of course, a lot of times people come in with victim mentality, which means I am not in control of my life. Other people are making my life my hell for me, right? It's their fault, not mine. And that, in essence, is a or a client saying, "I don't take responsibility for my life," right? What point is that does that become a liability for the coach?
It's that check-in. I'm hearing you share that information. Where would you like to take today's session? What do you want your outcome to be? You go back to the framework.
This is why we're hammering it home. The contract is critical.
Yeah. My question is, as a coach in the coaching world, what is the assumption? Is that case actually true, or is it not true?
Wait, I don't understand the question. Will you say it again?
So outside of the coaching session, I'm a coach, and I'm discussing with my coach colleagues. My client believes that they have no control over their lives. Do we actually believe that's true or not?
No, I mean, we as a coach
My assumption is they do have control
of
over
course
their
they
lives.
do, unless they're like in an asylum and they're literally like strapped to a bed and cannot do anything. They can't
So
do
what I'm trying to get at, if it comes to the point where I don't believe that they have control over their lives, maybe coaching's not the right thing for them.
Yes, right. Okay, yes. Or not, maybe there's some exploration that needs to happen. You know.
Yeah. So the usually go-to is immediately make that decision as a coach. No, there's time to explore before we jump into that direction, because we don't know enough on a few moments of conversation what they're willing to do and what changes they're willing to go through. Perhaps they're speaking from their normal patterns. They recognize they have a normal pattern. I mean, they're not going to use these words, but I'm using these words to keep it clear. And they want to change that pattern. So they've got to challenge that pattern. Sometimes that pattern challenge is really small, tiny steps that help them build the experience of taking that responsibility of how they want to develop.
So with that, with this that kind of client, that space, that coach really that is feeling responsible for their clients' outcomes, right? What that really that is being attached to an outcome, that is being invested in. You are not only are taking liability, you are also taking responsibility for your client's actions at that point. And in truth, you have nothing to do with it. You're not there. You're not doing it. It's out. And that's really why that's so critical, is that knowledge that you are there as for a space, as a mirror, as for them to be able to think clearly in that space and come to their own decisions and move forward from there. And that the responsibility does not extend beyond that. And it's clear in both the overall contract, but in the session contract as well.
So,
darn it.
Okay.
So if I'm coming out of a session and I am thinking of ways that I can solve some of my clients' issues that they brought to the table.
You see, he used "I" like 3 times and "my."
Exactly. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm alluding to. Is that, do you think maybe that is probably, maybe Lisa, in your experience, is that something that would be more so on the coach, or maybe just the way the session has gone?
It's not your job to be coming up with ways to solve your client's problems. That's not the one and only time in your life I will be okay with you saying it's not my job.
So if you're leaving a session and you're thinking about how you can solve your client's problem, put your name in that place. How can I solve Lisa's problem, as opposed to your clients? Because there's something usually in that space that you're tripping up on your own stuff that is pulling you into the client stuff.
I might even say, ask yourself, why is it important to me that I am trying to solve why am I attempting to solve my client's problems, but I have my own problems to deal with? What am I avoiding?
Well, maybe at that point you reach out to a coach, and then a coach's coach.
No, I'm just kidding. Of course, I'm kidding. Of course, but I mean, it's a natural inclination, especially a lot of people who are in this field. We are helpers. We are. where people who want to, we're used to, Lisa and I we have certified white knights, and we we have our armor and everything. We've learned we've got to take it off, and it's not so comfortable.
The idea when you're leaving your coaching session, the thing that you want to be doing as a coach is going, I never heard of that. I need to go learn more. So go learn more, but don't be taking your client home with you. And I mean, literally, of course, but figuratively as
in
well.
All forms. In all forms.
That figurative taking your client home and worrying about them and hoping they're going through it is not your stuff. It's just not your stuff. You don't own that.
So here, to wrap up, we're hitting the end of our hour here. So last thoughts, but very particular ones that are not at all topical. What you were talking about wrapping up a session. What should a coach do when a session ends? Like how session's over, boom, door shuts. What's a good coach doing in that moment?
They're finding out what the client's taking away from that moment, from that experience, and what they're going to work on between now and next session.
Well, that's the client, though. What's the coach? I'm telling the coach.
Oh, what's a coach?
The client has walked out the door. The client.
Sorry,
door,
I'm gonna find my Zen moment.
I'm taking some quick notes. Like I'm jotting down some notes, maybe about one thing, something I don't want to forget. Maybe he said the name of his daughter or something, and I just want to keep that in mind so I don't forget that. And I can be like, oh yes, I remember Mary. I don't know. But just little notes, little detail kind of things, and then setting it down and leaving it there.
I'm gonna have a drink and get ready for my next client.
Drinking, get ready for my next client.
So that's one of the things I did. I would get my tea. I would go and get my tea.
That's not what I meant by drink.
Exactly.
I figured it wasn't.
I'm keeping this G. So I would take care of myself, right? It's about taking care of yourself in that process. What you're not in that empathic state is taking on your client's energy and taking on your client's interaction.
The overachiever me that wants to take notes. Like I wanted my overachiever goes, take a note, make sure you got it. Like and then
Donna Whitley said, what about thinking about how you can be a better coach for your next session? Part of that is
absolutely.
I don't know if I like the word better. I would like. I mean, we can always improve, but maybe you don't always need to be better. Maybe you were already fantastic.
Well, that's the learning piece. What's the learning piece that I need to improve upon as a coach? What is that learning piece? I may not do anything, or I may have things I need to improve upon, or just learn because I knew.
What did I do really well in that session? That was awesome. I just did that. I want to do that again some other time. When it comes up naturally and it's not awkward, I'm not trying to force it in.
So what Lisa was sort of talking about before, what you can do in between sessions or having a drink, like I said, that just decompressing in general helps you become a better coach in between sessions, even if it's just relaxing, emptying out your cache in your brain.
30 minutes between like I have a 30-minute, I mean 15 is pushing it, but I like a 30-minute break between just so I can just like
I don't think, or this is my personal opinion, I don't think it makes you a better coach if you just keep at it and doing with no breaks whatsoever. You're gonna
I would be confused. I would get like I need like to be able to close the chapter and open the next one, right?
Yeah.
Although I did do them back to back frequently in the early days, back to back clients, boom, boom, boom. And then I had 15 minutes in between. And that's just not enough time. I got to give me a half an hour. I need a half an hour because that also gave me a little time to lighten things up.
I'm sorry, I'm doing my PQ reps. She said save. Alrighty. Well, I think that wraps up our day. Thank you guys so much for watching. And make sure, be careful, be aware. I mean, really, I think that my takeaway for this is to be aware of when I'm using I and you.
Here's a good rule of thumb. We talk about the 80-20 talking in a session. It doesn't mean talk about anything. It means strategically think about what you're going to talk about. Same with using I. 80-20 of what you talk about can be I, but you can use it strategically, not just willy-nilly.
Yeah, be smart.
So just 80-20 everything.
Everything can have an 80-20. Why 80-20? Who came
I
up
don't know.
with it?
You guys
I think
came
it's
up with it.
arbitrary, and I would like to contest it. It's
You don't have time.
I really think that people
Stop
use it as a blanket term.
Yeah,
and I've actually done the math. I'm just
Whatever. Don't listen to me. It doesn't matter. Who cares?
saying. Jerome, any final takeaways before we?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's particularly with using we is something that I feel like as a coach we can have trouble with, because we would like to help. You know, we're in a session where it's a cooperative situation, and it's just, again, it's important to remain mindful of using we in the wrong instance can take a ton of power away from your client, which is stepping away from what's the whole reason for going into a client session would be to empower them to their best of their abilities. Using we can be dangerous in that space.
Disingenuous when it's a client, because we are not accompanying them on their journey. Like, we won't be there with them while they're doing whatever it is they're doing. So it's like we're taking credit without being there to actually. When we're in a team environment, we are actually working together, so we can say we. But in that environment, it is not so much a we. So, Lisa,
Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you. We love you interacting, sharing our information. We are in the middle right now of getting coaches ready to get out there and do a lot of this stuff. And we can do it amazingly, really beautifully in 3 days to get you going in that foundation of what it means to be a certified coach. Definitely find us, join us, certifiedlifecoachinstitute.com. Brooke, what did I miss?
I think you got it.
That was beautiful.
Share, subscribe.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
See you next week.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Once again, this is brought to you by Certified Life Coach Institute. We're an ICF accredited school who certifies our life coaches in 3-day online intensive courses. In addition to other podcast episodes, feel free to check us out every Tuesday at 4:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube or Facebook for our CLCI Lives, where we get together and discuss various topics that are centered around sharpening your skills so you can become a better certified life coach. For more information, feel free to visit us at certifiedlifecoachinstitute.com. Until next time, be well.